Okay, welcome back to our audience to the Go AI podcast. Our guest today is Todd Anthony, founder and executive creative director of Pinwheel Agency. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about yourself, Pinwheel Agency, as well as the hot sauce business you run on the side?
Sure, happy to. So my name is Todd Anthony. I'm the executive creative director and founder of Pinwheel. I founded Pinwheel about 12 years ago now. We are primarily a brand storytelling and content agency that works with companies, typically B2B and typically tech, oftentimes finance or health tech, um, that have complicated industries, complicated stories, and they need to get their stories straight and get their stories out into the world. And I came from the advertising world originally.
Very well. So, AI, advertising, and marketing, we're going to be touching on all these things today. I would like to get into your claim that AI is really changing the traditional marketing funnel. I believe the phrase might be the traditional marketing funnel is actually broken. So, what do you think the next gen marketing funnel will resemble with the help of AI or just because of AI?
I mean, I think the main way that it's disrupting the models that we have now is just in terms of brand discovery, and a lot of that is coming down to AI search. And so people are, you know, we're in the business of marketing, and so that's about helping people make decisions. People are now making decisions prior to ever winding up in a company's funnel now because they have this wonderful tool, AI, which they can ask questions of, interrogate those answers, and get almost all the information they need to make a purchase decision right there. They are also um, talking to their colleagues. The average buyer group now, at least in B2B, has grown to like 14 people. So there's Slack conversations. A lot of those people are looking to other third-party sources like Reddit or G2 or other places like that, that are um, reviewing or discussing companies' products. So none of that's happening in the company's funnel, and none of that is actually something that brands are really dealing with well right now. Most of them, some aren't, but most aren't really.
And one of the things that you say in terms of effective marketing, even in the age of AI, is kind of keeping among some core principles of educating, telling the truth, and building trust before asking for the sale. So with AI, it's easier to kind of actually subvert those things in many cases. Just sending out whether it's agents that can just with very little context just sell to people, whether it's over email or in
Mm-hmm.
social media DMs, or just producing blog content that is kind of rife with misinformation or just
Mm-hmm.
unchecked or unverified claims.
Mm-hmm.
So, how should business owners and marketers use AI to align with your guiding principles with so many tools available?
Yeah, I mean, look, first I'm gonna respond to that setup a little bit. I mean, AI can be the fastest way to destroy your brand, um, known to man. So, beware. The best way to use AI, I mean, it really comes down to trust building. So that's what you should be in the business of doing. First and foremost is trying to build up trust with your buyers. Now, AI is a great way to do many things. It can create lots of efficiencies in your process, but when it comes time to actually interface with the customer, there should be, I wouldn't even say human in the loop. It should be human driven, because people can sniff out if it's, AI slop. They can sniff out if you're just sort of cell spamming or whatever that is that you described at the beginning. There's probably a name for it. People, you know, get pretty aggravated by that. And like I said, it's just going to destroy your brand faster. There is no way that people are determining their you're an asshole rate. Like you got your click through rates, you got your download rates, you got your engagement rates, your bounce rates, all that stuff. Try, beware of the one that you are not tracking, which is the you pissed people off rate.
Yeah, it's there's just so many opportunities for alienation with AI if you misuse it.
Yeah.
I think one of the organic things I saw just from people is just the sentiment of like, well, if you didn't bother reaching out to me as like a human and you're just fobbing it off to AI, do you really care that much about me? Kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. That's just one insight about like, okay, we do kind of need to be judicious in marketing with where you have the customers interacting with AI.
Yeah.
And speaking of just customers interacting with AI, not just live conversations, but just content as well, I would like to get into just the hard fact that businesses everywhere are using generative AI
Mm-hmm.
constantly to put out pictures, blogs, videos, even,
Mm-hmm.
increasingly like AI avatars. But the reality is that they're really not going to turn back from this, right? And so, what are some of the do's and don'ts for business owners, and how do you preserve what you in a blog titled the, or referred to as the human id, in their Gen AI workflows?
Yeah. Well, let me start with the last thing because that kind of sets up the rest of it. I think kind of nicely is that I was curious one day, and I asked AI. This is back when like I was just I'm still experimenting like crazy, but I was really experimenting. Um, Spending a whole day, sometimes just like experimenting with AI. And I asked it, like, what is the difference between what you write and what a human can write? And it came back with, well, said all these things. Uh, I don't have an id. In other words, it's the part of the human experience that goes into storytelling, things like that. It is you have your super ego, and your id. The ego is like the horse. The super ego is like the rider, and I think the id is like the reins, sort of like directing the horse. And so you don't have that when you are working with AI. And a lot of that comes from human experience that AI will never have. That's part of it. Another part of it is that it's just structurally not designed to to create great work. It is designed towards mediocrity. It's essentially finding the pattern, as you know, and it's replicating the pattern that's already out there. So that's just not a recipe for creating great content. It's a great recipe for creating mediocre content. If that's what you're trying to do. So the AI, it's going to gravitate towards stuff that people are familiar with, consensus positions, low friction phrasing. It's sort of the intellectual equivalent of the mean, right? Um, so I would say that the best way to use AI, if you are in the business of creating content, is to actually have an idea before you start the work. Is really have a clear idea on what it is you want to create and write that into your prompt. Put as much of your own sort of guidance and thoughts and inspiration and ideas into that prompt and see what it comes back with as a first draft. And know that, first of all, commit to the fact that that first draft you need to actually, you know, interrogate that and evaluate that truthfully. I think people have a bias towards accepting the work that AI does, and because they honestly they don't want to have to fiddle with it. They're like so excited about the fact that it's already done that they forget that it's the quality of it that actually matters. So, um, you know, work with it, push it, um, write, rewrite, and it will get better. And when I tell you that, I actually know it will get better because we did a test recently where we compared AI generated with all the same inputs that we had as humans with three human generated outputs, and the human generated outputs outperformed the AI output by about 29 points, which is like the difference between, you know, an A minus and an F, essentially. So it's it gets better if you work it, but I think that you're right in the sense that the gravity is pulling us all towards using AI. We're all we're going to be using it. I think it's just how you use it and being aware of the fact that in marketing what you're trying to do is persuade people to do things, and there's no hacking that. It's persuasion, okay? So if you forget that fact that you're trying to persuade somebody and just thinking about the check boxes that you're trying to check, you're going to be you're going to be turning out crappier work than if you actually do it right, human forward, use the machine to make it faster. Um, that's my advice. Did I answer your question? There's probably aspects of your question that I did not answer.
Seemed pretty thorough. I mean, I really do agree on the point that what happens when you give an AI model basically just all of the writing on the internet and you just say, okay, that's like your reference point for writing. You
Hmm.
know, I mean, there are opens like well, copyrighted and not copyrighted works as we've learned in there as well. But you know, it's there's still a lot of writing, and so what you kind of get is almost just smushing together all the kind of not just the averages, but also just all the below average as well. It
Hmm.
just gets smushed together as like its reference point of like this is what human writing should resemble.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I mean, people do talk about that you can, you know, you can create a brand voice. You can turn it into a Claude skill. You can, you know, do all these things where you try to manage that quality through the prompting. And what I've found is that can be, you know, successful to a certain degree, but oftentimes what happens is that it's because it structurally gravitates towards the average. It just always starts to creep back towards that. No matter what you feed it, it's going to wind up going back to, you know, slop. So that's my
another
feeling.
yeah, another thing for business owners listening, I would just say, just on the bare bones practical level, even when you like how it wrote, you know, even if you're like, okay, this is satisfiable, still fact check it because I
Oh
mean,
my God.
I've seen AI talk about cars that don't even exist. You know, it just makes it up, and so you know the hallucinations are real even today. I mean, I think
Hmm.
Sam Altman said, you know, I think in the past years said like the problem of hallucinations is unlikely to ever go away. There's always going to be a non-zero percent chance that there will be hallucinations no matter how sophisticated the systems get. So, you know, you always need to be vigilant there.
Yeah, and that can have real business implications. Yeah, I think it was. I don't want to get sued, but I do think it possibly was Business Insider, and I could be wrong. Caveat, caveat. But putting out some content about, you know, credit, or putting out some content that was financial in nature and using sources that the AI, you know, just sort of fabricated, and didn't check it, and wound up getting hammered for it on the search algorithm. Um, just deranked, and it really hurt their business. So yeah,
Yeah, especially for businesses in that YMYL category, your money or
that's
your
it.
life. I mean,
Yep.
that can just be devastating if you're just putting out AI stuff that you haven't fact checked at
Yeah.
all. Um,
Yeah. I mean, process is key. Having somebody in the loop who is checking that. We have editors on staff. Our writers are very good about sourcing. We do a lot of YMWL content. So yeah, super important.
and so something to just get deeper into like the way that generative AI is evolving, content engines are really kind of starting to pick up where you can just context engineer a lot, kind of going like, okay, here's our brand voice, here's a bunch of even images to use as references if they're creating images. As a communications arts expert in the with decades of experience in advertising, in what ways are AI content engines changing the game and we can go for better and worse?
Yeah, I mean, going back to what I was saying about brand voice, I mean, it's just not something that it can you can rely on. You need somebody in the loop who really does know the brand voice to be able to ensure that it's going to be on brand voice. And the stakes on that are high too, because if you're off brand with your voice and you're kind of all over the place with your voice, what that does is it detracts from the trust that people have. They're like, who are you? Like, I don't even know who you are. Therefore, I trust you less. Whether that's happening consciously or subconsciously, it's happening. So it is very important that your brand stay, consistent with its voice. Um, I think that the idea that you can create engines that are entirely AI is it's a very alluring idea. Um, I mean, you could even have one agent that's doing, the SEO. You probably know a lot more about this than I do. And then you have other ones that are executing, other ones that are checking sources, even. Um, you know, you could have a whole system that is operating, you know, autonomously, essentially. Whether it's doing a good job or not, I don't know. We have a content engine that it's human run. Um, and we have people who are using AI doing the work, so it's less autonomous, and so it's more just sort of do it with me kind of a thing. AI as a partner and a collaborator than more than anything else, and it is faster than doing it just human, um, and so we're able to get more done. Um, and that's super fun and exciting. But I don't think I'm at a point yet where I'd be comfortable with turning that whole machine into one autonomous uh, system.
I mean, my recommendation is, yeah, just keeping the old, like, whatever you're doing with AI generated content already in terms of overlooking it and, just reviewing it, fact checking and editing it, rewriting wherever you need to. Keep
Mm-hmm.
that in place. I would say like a content engine, it's really kind of just like a context engineering tools, how I would describe it
Mm-hmm.
more or less is that, you can kind of, instead of having to like write out a really involved prompt every time, you can basically just say, hey, here's what I need every time for this, whether it's for my business or my client, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
interesting. But yeah, speaking of businesses, I would like to get a little bit into your hot sauce business because I am
Oh yeah.
curious about just you as a business owner. How
Yeah.
are you using AI there to help with this? I don't know if you would call it a side hustle or not, but how you're implementing AI principles or whatnot within this venture.
Connor, that's a great idea. I should be. I don't know why I haven't. Well, okay, so just to tell you the full story, my father used to make a it was a balsamic vinegar, and he used to give it to friends mostly, and it was a way for him to kind of connect with his community. And I remember being in the back seat, 8 years old, him driving around during the holidays and dropping them off at his friends' doorsteps and things like that. I had a very fond memory of that. He asked me if I wanted to take over the balsamic vinegar, and I wasn't really into into that idea. But the idea of creating something that is, food related, and that you give away to friends and so forth, was kind of alluring to me. So I spent about 11 years developing the recipe, and I eventually landed on a Louisiana style, Fresno pepper based hot sauce that is, it's fermented. It's a thicker version of Tabasco, but it's less salty and a little less vinegary. So it's and the whole idea behind it is that I didn't want it to be too hot, and I didn't want it to be like this, super hot, like burn your mouth like brand. I wanted it to be essentially, I call it a gentlemanly hot sauce, that it opens the door for your food. It doesn't take the place of the flavors of your food. So, which I think it actually, I think it, I, to be truthful, I think it actually does that. I think it's a very complementary flavor profile, and more additive than detractive. So that's where I am with it right now, is kind of in a holding pattern. I'm at that point where I have all of my cost of goods sold, I have my recipe, I have my um, certification from the state. I've I've got pH balances, I've got all kinds of stuff, and it's ready to go in terms of going into production. But I haven't found the time yet to actually do that. And I have to go find rent a kitchen, basically, like rent a professional kitchen that has all the certifications around food safety and so forth, so that I can actually create it. Because creating it I looked into it, you can't do that sort of work in your own kitchen. So,
Still in the stages, but hey,
yeah,
uh, keep a lookout for it, audience.
I
But
have
yeah,
sold it. It's called Peter Piper's Pepper Sauce.
nice, nice. But
Yeah,
yeah, uh,
super.
in terms of AI though, so you said really not much AI involved there.
Not yet, no. I imagine it would be extremely helpful once it came time to start selling, creating, like, helping me sort of create one sheets and uh, selling plans and so forth. My plan was to sell it into um, not stores, but delicatessens and other sort of cafe, like casual cafe type things, and sort of try to develop the awareness through their guests, and then have a healthy online presence.
Very well, very well. I wish you luck in that endeavor. We're kind of closing in on time here, so I'll wrap it up here. And but yeah, thanks so much, Todd, for coming on Go AI. It was a good episode.
Thank
Always love to hear the kind of
you.
dissenting or even just like
Uh,
challenging opinions on AI, especially like generative AI. Um,
yeah, I think it's really important, Connor, just to keep your mind open. I'm not telling you that. I'm just sort of saying to the world, like, my mind is open. Like, I may have come across, contrarian, but I am always willing to be surprised.
I think a lot more people are aligned with you than maybe might be willing to admit. You know, I mean, there's still stuff that, I mean, I've been using like Gen AI for years, and there's still stuff that I just write completely on my own because I'm like, it just can't like operate on what I'm trying to do or just achieve
Yeah.
it, what I'm trying to achieve. So it's just, yeah, case by case. But yeah, thanks again for coming on. And yeah, until next
Thank you,
time.
Connor.